Hello and welcome to Star Citizen with Cody. Today I thought I'd share you my opinions on the Polaris, which was released just before the CitizenCon presentations. The day before as a pre-sale and of course officially during the CitizenCon event itself. Now from my own perspective, I'm an original backer from the game, 2012, the Kickstarter campaign. Quite a big investment into it, more than sensible for a person in my position, but I guess it just shows my love for this game. And also as a relevant factor, I actually have an Idris, and yet I bought one of these vessels. So let me talk you through my reasoning behind it and also what I think of this particular ship. For starters, the reason why I was interested in the Polaris as a corvette, and I was not going to buy it instantly because for starters, the ship needs to look nice to me. If I don't like the look of the ship, I don't want it. It's that simple. Anyhow, it was shown up, I loved how it looked, instant purchase to me. And the reasoning behind it is simple. It's a risk factor analysis. The Idris that I own is likely going to be acting as a mobile command center for my organization, the 151st Freedom Fighters. In that role, you do not always want to risk your main command and control center that's flying around. So when we're going into combat situations, and you don't really need the additional firepower and especially the survivability that the Idris will offer, the Polaris is a very good option. The reason simple is, it has a lot of firepower in a very attractive package and will be a lot lower in cost. Because these things are being produced en masse. Because if you read the lore on this, what they're doing with these things is like pumping these ships out and putting them out for sale to say to every militia out there, every loyal organization to the UAE, please buy these ships and help us fight the Vandal. So RSI is going to be pumping out these ships and they're going to be all over the place. And it also means that spare parts are going to be all over the place, which means it's going to be easier to keep the thing in operation if you take any damage during operations, in combat operations. So that was, to me, is the base reasoning behind saying, yes, this ship will fit good in my fleet for my purpose. Because also when you're looking at my organization, it's a freelance organization. We'll do the job as long as you pay, and that's all we're going to ask. Doing that, we will be doing a lot of combat operations. And this ship is a thoroughbred warship. It's designed for one thing and one thing alone. Kick ass. Particular Vandal ass, but that pretty much works for anything else. At least in my book. And it should do in yours as well. If not, then you might get some nasty surprises. If you think that this ship doesn't hurt you, then yeah. Tough luck. So then there's the other aspect that's being discussed, especially during the sale, and going more into the sale details now for a moment. Pricing. This ship was priced in the pre-sale, I believe, for $625. I'm not sure, I'm using different pricings on the site, so it's hard to keep track of the USD pricing. And the full price was $750. What do I think of the price? When I look at this ship, its size and its capabilities, I say the pricing is spot on compared to the rest. This is a really modern, high-tech ship. It's purpose-built. And that alone just says, yes, it's worth this price. Because when you're going to compare it to, say, another ship that I own, the 890 Jump, that thing was $600 from my head. And a lot of people were like, I ain't buying that. Because they actually sold less than the allotted hulls available for that ship. And I understand that completely, because that ship is a luxury yacht. It's going to be about as useful as a luxury yacht is in real life, which means all it will do is cost you money. The end. Yes, it has very good defensive weapons, but it's not a combat ship. And a lot of people who originally bought the Jump also were like thinking, turning it into a combat ship, turning it into a control ship, yada yada yada. And I think what the Polaris here is really showing is like, listen, if you want a combat ship, this is your combat ship. This is your corvette, large, small size, let's say small size capital ship, or large multi-role ship. It's a bit in between. Corvette's always been a bit of an iffy ship class to point out and say that's where you belong. But this is the ship for a smaller organization that wants a combat-oriented vessel. So pricing wise, it's a bit higher than the 890 jump, but it's far more capable than the 890 jump is. So I say they're perfectly right on. Going to compare it a bit downwards, say compared to the Carrack, which a lot of people also have been pushing around, showing around and changing it a bit, so like this could be your corvette. And size wise, it's a bit smaller, but the idea behind it was not crazy. However, when you look at the Carrack's purpose and the way it's built and just its general profile, it's not a suitable combat vessel. It's an exploration vessel. It's a vessel designed for an entirely different purpose. Because it's way too exposed. There's way too much going on with a ship that will get damaged, it will get blown up, and it's just fragile. While if you look in here at the Polaris, it's a sleek, smooth shape. It is wanting, it is purpose built. It doesn't have anything sticking out there that doesn't need to be sticking out there to be blown off. Because there's one simple fact with a combat ship. You will take damage. So the easier the damage will be to repair, and the less likely the damage is to be catastrophic or be really annoying, the better off you are. Of course, that brings us to the nature of the light armor on the Polaris. To me it makes perfect sense. Corvettes are not combat ships. But wait, you just said it's a combat ship. Well, yes and no. Corvettes originally are more escorts. So they are sometimes civilian ships, sometimes just really basic military vessels. They got a few guns, some anti-submarine stuff on it, and that's about it. They're convoy escorts. It's just something you put at sea next to a convoy to at least say like, hey, we are protecting this, and they're cheap. Now, of course, you say $750, that's not really cheap. No, it's not really cheap, but if you're going to compare it to an RSP at $1,250, which is still underpriced for what it does, or a Javelin at what are those things, 2,500 or something, then you will see like, yes, it's cheap. Because with capital ships, especially when you're talking warships, the larger you go, the price is going up massively. I mean, compare a modern day destroyer is like 300 million maybe, give or take, just taking a random number, not really sure. And when you're looking at an image class carrier, much larger, but not that much larger, those things are like 6-7 billion? Not even talking about the new carrier they're building right now, which is currently sitting, I believe, at 12. So that gives you a bit of a reference point. A corvette is not designed to really go into a fleet engagement, as is. And what they are designed to do is to protect the convoy or to perform certain strikes against other equally sized vessels, or ideally unarmed vessels. That's what you could use a corvette for, but even then you'll sooner pick up a frigate, which is really the smallest ship you would use for combat, or a destroyer, which is really like, okay, when you're talking destroyers, you're really starting to talk like, this is a fighting ship, and you're going into a battle with that. However, as we're going back to the cost aspect, the whole lore idea behind the Polaris is it's a mobilization initiative. What it is designed to do is give civilians and civilian organizations access to a very capable combat vessel at a reasonable price. So instead of going with hugely thick armor, which is very expensive, they decided to just slap on 3 big strong shields and say a lot of speed. So instead of a ship that's going to stick around in the fight and slug it out, like a Javelin would do, this ship is going to do strike runs. Another real clear indication for this purpose can be found in its full forward-facing torpedo tubes. This ship is going to approach at speed an equal-sized or larger opponent It will fire all the turrets it can bring to bear at that target or use it to protect itself against fighter strikes, and it will be launching 1 or 2 salvos of torpedoes depending on how fast they can be reloaded. When it has put out its strike, it will not get too close of the enemy target. It will instead of that peel away, get some distance, reload and set up for the next strike. That's how you're going to use the ship into combat. And by doing that, you have a very mobile target. It has a punch that's above its weight class with a heavy torpedo armament. That's going to be cheap to buy and cheap to operate relatively compared to larger capital ships which are not available to civilians. Because when you're looking at the Idris, like, yes, some are being sold to civilians, but the equipment on there is limited, military technology is removed. When you're taking a look at a Javelin, as I said, you're really talking about a fighting ship now, it's completely stripped out. When you buy a Javelin right now, what you're getting is a ship, a power core, and some engines strapped to it. Pretty much everything else you need to put on there. So it's going to be a huge investment for any private organization to, first off, buy one, secondly, outfit one, and thirdly, crew one. Because that's also one of the nice things about these corvettes are. They have a relatively small crew. Like, I know they're saying like a total of up to 24 people. However, that's if you're going to be running an elongated operation. If you're just going to have these sitting in dock ready to go out in defense against a Vandal raid, for example, you don't need 24 people. No. All you need is 11. And maybe 1 or 2 more just to fill out the ranks if you want. Well, you got 5 people on the bridge, 1 in engineering, 1 in the torpedo room, and you got 6 in the turrets. That's it. Just 13 people actually, sorry. Anyhow, that's a really, really small crew complement for a ship that packs such a punch. And that again helps it being this easily accessible, reasonably affordable combat vessel that is for a civilian operation ideal. And that's, I think, why this ship is just a brilliant design. It's in all the essence a corvette. Like, it's a light ship, it's pretty fast because it needs to keep up with merchant ships which are only generally work quite fast as well. It has good long range endurance because it needs to be going the distance. It packs a punch above its weight class by the use of the torpedo armaments. And yet it's thinly armored, so it's lighter, it's faster, and it's cheaper. I also think it's a brilliant designed ship for that. And that's why I'm really glad to put one into my fleet. So, should you buy one? The question that SCL Youngblood tends to asking is, should you buy videos? And he was pretty clear in it. He said, like, this is a combat ship. And he said you should buy it for that reason. And that reason alone. And that we don't really know a lot, because, you know, you're waiting for the Q&As to get some more details on it. But I think honestly that you don't really need the Q&As for this one, because this thing is truly a purpose ship. It's a combat ship. So if your organization has the resources in both monetary sense and personnel sense to operate this ship, and your primary objective is that you need a combat vessel, either as a attack ship because you're a PMC, or because you need a ship that can protect your convoys, because as I said they are ideal convoy escorts, or you need a ship to watch over your mining operation, or anything like that, yes, buy one, or 2, or 3, whatever the hell you need. However, if you're just going to be operating in safe space, and you're going to be mining wherever in UAE, what's generally quite secure, or you'll be transported within UAE space, so you also don't really need insane protection, don't buy one. Because it's, despite being cheap, it's still going to cost you a lot of money to operate. So you still will be spending a lot of money on this ship to keep it running. Because it's not a constellation, let's be frank. It is a combat ship, and combat ships are always more expensive to operate than any equally sized civilian purpose ship for like transportation. I mean, a whole series is going to be cheaper to operate than this ship. So be very thoughtful about what purposes you have for this ship. And if you can match your purpose to what this ship's purpose is, get one. If not, save your money. Like, if you're a mining organization and you don't need a combat ship, wait for the Orion to be put on sale. Or if you want to go transport, wait for the whole series. Or the Banu Merchantman. Or if you want to go for the salvage ships, wait for the Reclaimer. So just be smart on where you're gonna spend your money on these spaceships. Because let's be also honest here, they're expensive. It's a lot of money to be putting down on a virtual item. And I know that a lot of us fans, we're just crazy and we do it. But it's still always good to consider what you're spending your money on. In my case, I'm a reasonably military focused organization, because that's probably most of what we're going to be doing. So for me it's absolutely perfect. And it's going to allow me to have a much cheaper to operate, repair and replace combat platform to use than the Idris would offer me. Of course, if the going gets really tough, we'll use the Idris. If not, the Polaris is an absolutely amazing ship. So those are my thoughts on the Polaris and the pricing around it. Let me know if you like to see more of these kind of videos. I'm just going to be discussing more of a topic. And I also will be planning to do a video on the stuff that has been shown at like Gamescom and CitizenCon this year. And also talk a little bit about the development path that Star Citizen has taken over the years. And perhaps shed some light on why things are taking longer than some people are expecting. That video I hope will be up somewhere next week, because I will be off work, so I got some more time to provide an actual proper script for the first time, I guess, for one of those. And do some more official video work instead of just recording a bloody slideshow in Windows Photo Viewer, which is what I'm doing now. Because let's be honest, I'm still quite new to all of this YouTube video stuff. Anyhow, as always, if you got any feedback from me, please leave it in the comments. I really can use it, because I need to improve myself on this. And besides that, I thank you so much for watching. Until next time.